Unfortunately, we've had to edit out some important information because big tech won't let us say that sort of thing. To listen to the full uncut show, go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Folks, Am I Racist is now streaming exclusively at Daily Wire Plus. It's the biggest documentary of the last decade. And now, if you go and subscribe, you don't just get the movie, you also get bonus content for members only. We're talking unseen footage, Matt's breakdown of his epic troll. This is a limited time offer. Use code DEI, get 35% off Daily Wire Plus memberships. For those who haven't seen the movie, here is the trailer.
What do you feel in your body when you hear the term white people?
I feel like a cringe about it. Cringe is a good word.
White, straight, cisgender man is the top of the pile.
I'm on the top of the pile. It's me.
Can I just propose a toast? Raise a glass if you're racist. To racist.
That was really weird.
Don't deny that you're racist. Try not to be racist, but also don't realize that you're. Until we're willing to talk about these things, healing can't really begin.
My daughter's 4 years old. She's still watching Disney movies and choosing a white princess.
Have you talked to her about that?
All the time.
Is racism inherent to whiteness?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, probably.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Did race exist as a reality before?
We made race exist.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. What do you mean? What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you.
Am I Racist? Now streaming only on Daily Wire Plus. Rated PG-13.
Joining us on the line is Matt Walsh. He, of course, is the star of Am I Racist, the biggest documentary of the last 10 years. It is now streaming exclusively at Daily Wire Plus. Matt Walsh, thanks for joining the program. Great to talk to you.
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me.
So it's been a hell of a ride for you. Like this is it's an amazing documentary. Obviously, your newfound success has made you much, much more famous. So I'm not sure how you go undercover in the future. But tell us about why you're excited that Am I Racist is now available at Daily Wire Plus. What are people going to be able to see behind the paywall that they weren't able to see in the theaters if they already saw it?
Yeah, I mean, well, the big thing, of course, first of all, is the movie itself, which, look, there's many people who wanted to see it in theaters. They weren't able to see it. And so this is your chance to watch it. And even if you did watch it in theaters, I like to think that this is a movie that rewards second and third viewings. As someone who's seen it probably 20 times, I think it does get better with age. But on top of that, we have, we've got breakdowns of different scenes where we talk about behind the scenes, what went into making the film, what went into setting up the scenarios that I find myself in the movie, which is the number one question I get all the time is, how did you get into the room? How did you get that person on screen? How did all that work? And I give as much information as I can possibly give in some of these behind-the-scenes breakdowns. And we also have some deleted scenes as well that weren't able to make it into the final cut of the film. So there's a lot there if you go to dailywire.com and get signed up, and you can find it all there.
So, Matt, Am I Racist? I think the message was relevant, obviously, a few weeks ago when it came out in theaters. It's even more relevant now, given the fact that Kamala Harris is running dead even with Donald Trump in many of the polls right now. And her entire campaign is about diversity, equity, and inclusion. There was an article from the New York Times that came out late last week explaining that as vice president, one of her first acts was to scan intelligence reports for sexist language. Why don't you talk a little bit about the importance of Am I Racist and showing all your friends Am I Racist in the run-up to the election?
Yeah, I mean, the timing on this really, the thing is, it's interesting because when we came up with the idea for the film, 2 years ago, only a few months after What Is Woman came out, we assumed that when the election came, it would be, at that point, Joe Biden on his marionette strings that they're, walking to the election. We didn't realize, of course, that Kamala Harris would be the nominee. We didn't know that when the movie came out, it would be right in the middle of an election where there's an actual DEI candidate. But that's the way that it worked out. So I think that the timing for this film, both to hit theaters and now the streaming platform, couldn't be better, because this really is, it's not just a slur to say that Kamala Harris is a DEI candidate. She is, in fact, the first DEI candidate in the history of this country, in that she's a presidential nominee who was put in that position, not voted into it purely because she checked demographic boxes, and she's obviously not qualified for the position that she's in. Nobody even really wants her there, even on her own side. I mean, that is DEI down to a T, and that is what we're exposing in the film, and also mocking ruthlessly and mercilessly, which I think is the best strategy against this madness, in my opinion.
You know, folks, Am I Racist? Again, it's the best performing documentary of the last 10 years. These things don't come cheap. It was a very expensive documentary to make. It's expensive to get it in theaters. It is difficult to do it. It took enormous amounts of time and sacrifice on Matt's part. And we do need your help in being able to put out material like Am I Racist with people like Matt Walsh. This is just another reason you should head on over to dailywire.com right now and subscribe Daily Wire Plus and use code DEI, and you will get a discount of 35% when you do on your annual subscription. It is available today, like today, right now, at Daily Wire Plus. Matt, once again, congratulations on the film. It's an amazing piece of work. Any final words for the audience?
I think you touched on it, that to make movies like this, it's a major investment, it's a huge risk, and we're able to do it because of the support from the audience. And we want to keep doing this because this is what making culture is. If you want to fight for the culture, you have to be making art, making entertainment, making films, and we can only do that without with the audience support. So that's why you got to go and get subscribed, and we will reward that with I think a really entertaining and fun and important film.
Folks, once again, go check it out, Daily Wire Plus right now. Matt, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Well, folks, we are now 1 week and 1 day away from the biggest election of our lifetime, the 2024 election. And Donald Trump is not only closing fast, he is closing big. So last night, Donald Trump held a rally at Madison Square Garden. He packed the house. 20,000 people showed up. There were tens of thousands of people in the streets outside. No real signs of protest. It was kind of a shocking sight for sure. The state of the race right now, despite all the enthusiasm, anybody who tells you that they know exactly how this race is going to go is lying to you at this point. Anybody who says that it is a foregone conclusion that Trump wins or that Harris wins is not telling you the truth. I can have a gut feeling, you can have a gut feeling, and those gut feelings count for pretty much nothing. That is also the opinion of Nate Silver, who says that his gut right now is that Donald Trump is ahead. He says, I don't think you should put any value whatsoever on anyone's gut, including mine. Instead, you should resign yourself to the fact a 50-50 forecast really does mean 50-50. And when you look at the polling, right now, literally every swing state is within the margin of error. I'm looking at the Real Clear Politics polling average. Michigan is a dead heat, Trump plus 0.1. Pennsylvania, a dead heat, Trump plus 0.5. Wisconsin, dead heat, Trump plus 0.3. Arizona is a little bit more ahead, 1.5. North Carolina, Trump plus 0.8. Georgia, Trump plus 2.3. So he is closing, and he is, in fact, closing better than she is at this point. Does that mean that he's inevitably going to win? No. And for those who are saying that the early voting statistics right now show Republicans doing better than expected, that's true, but it's unclear at this point whether that is cannibalizing day of voting. So again, the reason I'm sounding all these notes of caution is just because I think we should all be realistic that every vote matters right now. So if you have not gone out and voted yet, you absolutely should. This is indeed an incredibly tight election. Sometimes one campaign gets a feeling of momentum and people start to think, okay, well, if I stay home, no biggie because my candidate's going to win anyway. That is a recipe for defeat. This election is, in fact, by every polling data available, a dead heat. And that means that every little bit counts at this point in time. With that said, if you look at the behavior of the two campaigns, it is pretty clear who both campaigns think is ahead. Donald Trump believes he's ahead, and Kamala Harris seems to believe that Donald Trump is ahead. So as mentioned, last night, Donald Trump holds this gigantic rally at Madison Square Garden. And of course, anytime a Republican holds a rally at a place where one time there were Nazis, that means that it's supposed to be a throwback to a Nazi rally. This is the line that's been used by the left all day, every day. They've been doing this in advance of the rally, in fact. So, for example, Tim Walz suggested just yesterday that the Madison Square Garden rally by Donald Trump, which was basically just a redo of the RNC, except Elon Musk also showed up. He said that that was just like a Hitler rally. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
Donald Trump has descended into madness over the last few weeks. And I think some of you don't miss on this. Go do your Google on this. Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden. There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there.
Okay, well, that's a little bit weird because as it turns out, lots of parties have had events at Madison Square Garden. In fact, the New York Knicks are apparently the Nazis because they play at Madison Square Garden. Bill Clinton actually did a 1992 Democratic presidential nomination at Madison Square Garden. Jimmy Carter did the same thing at Madison Square Garden in 1980. George W. Bush did it in 2004 at Madison Square Garden. So apparently these were all Nazi rallies. And this is part of the latest desperation play by the Kamala campaign. And the desperation is just reeking from this campaign. The inestimably stupid Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, she's saying the same thing. She went on MSNBC this morning and declared that this was indeed a Nazi rally.
There's a couple of things. As you mentioned, this was a hate rally. Mm-hmm. This was not just a presidential rally. This was also not just a campaign rally. I think it's very important for people to understand that these are mini January 6th rallies. These are mini Stop the Steal rallies. These are rallies to prime an electorate into rejecting the results of an election if it doesn't go the way that they want. Because Donald Trump and that entire cadre of people up on that stage, Stephen Miller, et cetera, do not respect the law of the United States of America. And they either want to win this election or they are using rhetoric of taking it by force.
Well, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, obviously very excited about the possibility of a Trump presidency because then she gets to do her resistance routine again. But this is all part of a broader desperation play by the Kamala Harris campaign to call Trump Hitler. You see, Hitler drank water, Trump drinks water, therefore Trump, Hitler, the same. So last week, while I was out, the Harris campaign revved into high gear. Their Trump has a tiny mustache part of the campaign. Kamala Harris actually did a little speech from the vice presidential residence declaring that Donald Trump was Hitler. This in the aftermath of former Chief of Staff John Kelly coming out and calling Donald Trump a fascist. Here's what she had to say.
Yesterday, we learned that Donald Trump's former Chief of Staff, John Kelly, a retired 4-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him.
Okay, that is, she's an absurdity. This entire campaign is an absurdity. Meanwhile, the entire Democratic Party is having trouble fending off people who actually hold swastikas at rallies. The pro-Hamas crowd, which desperately wants to be part of the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris can't say boo to those people. So that's her closing pitch. Her closing pitch is that Donald Trump is some sort of crazed Nazi. And meanwhile, again, Kamala Harris can't even say boo to the Nazis. So Kamala Harris, for example, she was speaking in Michigan, and protesters interrupted her once more about Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza. And she has nothing to say to them. Because when it comes to time to actually speak up against today's Nazis, she wants their votes.
We are fighting for America's future. And we understand the opportunity we have before us to turn the page on the fear
She's being yelled at by these crazy people, and she can never have the sister soldier moment where she just turns to the crazed pro-Hamas goons and says, Israel is right in its war, because that might offend the people who actually sympathize with the pro-Hamas Nazis. So it takes a lot of gall to suggest that what happened at Madison Square Garden last night was some sort of Nazi rally. There are Israeli flags hanging from the rafters. There were tons of Orthodox Jews who showed up. By the way, Orthodox Jews are going to vote for Donald Trump 120%. Orthodox Jews who are not eligible to vote will probably try to vote for Donald Trump. That is how passionate the base is in the community of Jews who care about Israel with regard to Donald Trump. Meanwhile, by the way, a Jew was shot in Chicago by somebody shouting Allahu Akbar over the weekend. And apparently that's not a big national story because, of course, it happened in Chicago. Again, I only point this out because the last-ditch campaign effort by the Harris campaign to suggest that Trump can't be president because he's a Nazi is just plainly ridiculous on its face. And it's not going to dent whatsoever what happened at Madison Square Garden last night. So, Madison Square Garden, again, it was sort of a redux of the Republican National Convention. Hulk Hogan showed up on stage. Elon showed up on stage. Melania Trump made her first campaign appearance of the entire campaign cycle. Here is Hulk Hogan doing his routine.
But today, Trumpomaniacs, the energy in here is something like I've never felt. The energy of all these Trumpomaniacs is the most powerful force in the universe. And today, this is Donald Trump's house, brother. You know something, Trump maniacs? I don't see no stinking Nazis in here. I don't see no stinking domestic terrorists in here. The only thing I see in here are a bunch of hard-working men and women that are real Americans, brother.
Again, the entire left can mock this sort of stuff, but the reality is that Donald Trump does not look down on Americans who like, for example, Hulk Hogan and the WWE. Everybody thinks that what Trump does at these rallies is very corny because he has Lee Greenwood singing, "God bless the USA," and because there are lots of American flags, and because he's wearing a hat, the MAGA hat, which has always looked like a family reunion hat from 1996. That is the charm. That is the appeal. And that appeal can't be understood by the more sophisticated set, but it is a very real appeal nonetheless. And of course, Trump has grown his coalition. Right? Elon Musk, who for most of his career was a Democrat, has now declared himself a passionate, dark MAGA advocate. Here he was at the rally last night getting an enormous cheer.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're being taxed. You're being taxed. All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. We're going to get the government off your back and out of your pocketbook.
And then Melania showed up again. She has not been present this entire campaign. And so she showed up on stage to introduce Donald Trump last night. Here she was.
For generations, this town has produced America's most fearless leaders, whose mark changed the course of the world. New York City and America needs their magic back. A country of tomorrow that will shape our future and reset expectations for the generations. Envision a wonderful America where the seeds of security, prosperity, and health are sown once again for benefit of our families. Let us start together with a shared vision that builds on American greatness. Let's seize this moment and create a country for tomorrow, the future that we deserve.
Okay, so, it's great that Melania showed up. And then, of course, Trump showed up, and he was classic Trump, which means that he spoke for a million years. There are a bunch of gems in there. Here he was bashing Kamala Harris last night. Obviously, he's in a very good mood. I mean, Donald Trump thinks he's going to win. Kamala Harris apparently also thinks he's going to win. Here was Trump last night.
One thing you have to know is that no matter how good your people are that operate this machinery, it's going to break. And you're going to be out there all by yourself a lot. And you got to be able to do so. 3 weeks ago, she was saying there was only 32 days left, right? And she's reading it like, there's 32 days, and it stopped. And she went, there's 32 days. 32, 32, and I was watching. I said, this isn't pretty. 32. She was gone, and then, damn it, it kicked back on. She was gone.
Yeah, again, this is sort of Trump at his freewheeling best. He's enjoying himself. Here was Donald Trump making a more serious point, however, which was that he actually kept us out of wars, which, of course, is true.
Remember crooked Hillary Clinton? Crooked Hillary, oh, she was a beauty. During one of our many debates, she said, look at him, listen to him. He's going to start a war. Listen to his rhetoric. He's going to start a war. I said, no. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened.
Okay, that's true. And that's real, what he is saying right there. Well, of course, Donald Trump is absolutely right. Democrats have been responsible for unleashing a number of disasters across the world. But there are other disasters too. Natural disasters, those are a reality. From the Maui fires to Hurricane Helene and Milton, we are seeing catastrophic disasters take out entire towns with minimal warning, resulting in lack of basic resources. I get it, we're all wired to think it's not going to happen around me, and then in a blink, you're in survival mode. Being prepared in advance is your best defense against the unexpected. The wellness company's emergency kits completely remove the gatekeeper and subside panic by providing you with a personalized mini pharmacy in the convenience of your own home. Bacterial infections, staph, bite wounds, UTIs, strep throat, respiratory illnesses. You no longer have to be at the mercy of somebody else to help you. You keep a fire extinguisher handy in case of a fire, so it's probably a good idea to have some basic medicines handy in the event you need those. Same mindset, different product. Getting an emergency kit is fully digital, all from the convenience of your couch. You fill out an intake form, a pharmacist reviews and approves it, and then you receive the kits in 2 weeks. The medical board approved guidebook tells you exactly what to do. This is preparedness simplified. Invest in your family's self-managed insurance plan. Head on over to urgentcarekit.com/Ben. Use promo code Ben, save $60 plus get free shipping. USA residents only. That's urgentcarekit.com/Ben to save $60. urgentcarekit.com/Ben. Also, I've done shows from all kinds of offices over the years. We're talking radio studios, university lecture halls, conference centers. The list goes on and on. But here's the thing. While there are many different types of offices out there, one thing is for certain. Choosing the right candidate for any office is a giant responsibility. Well, if you're hiring and you want to find the best candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. Right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter is the hiring site employers prefer the most based on G2. The moment you post your job, their smart technology immediately starts showing it to qualified candidates. No wasteful bureaucracy, no endless waiting, just powerful matching technology that finds you top talent fast so you don't waste time or money. You can even invite the best candidates to apply directly because in business, unlike in government, efficiency actually matters. Remember, if you want to find the right candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. So you have 4 to 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within day 1. Just go to this exclusive web address right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire, which is why we at Daily Wire have been using it for years. We're constantly upgrading our employee base. Wonderful employees coming from ZipRecruiter to us. Do the same for your business as well. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire to try it out for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire, the smartest way to hire. Okay, so the big rip on the Madison Square Garden rally last night, aside from Trump is a Nazi, is the claim that racist jokes were made by a comedian named Tony Hinchcliffe. Now, you remember probably Tony Hinchcliffe from the Tom Brady roast. He actually did probably the best set at the Tom Brady roast. He did a set last night to open the Madison Square Garden rally, and I'll just say it was not a good set. It didn't make me laugh. I didn't think it was great. I thought that he told a bunch of pretty hackneyed, kind of racialist jokes because he's trying to be edgy. And I understand that that's half the appeal to sort of the meme lords of the campaign. It's not helpful in the middle of a campaign to make jokes about Puerto Ricans and Jews and blacks and Latinos and in the middle of a campaign. Not a particularly useful thing, such that the Trump campaign has to actively dissociate from the comedian's act. With that said, is that supposed to be the thing that characterizes the campaign? How many votes are going to swing that Tony Hinchcliffe made a bad joke about Puerto Rico? I don't think so very much. And the reality right now is that in the closing days of the campaign, Donald Trump is on a roll. And on Friday, he went on Joe Rogan. That episode of Joe Rogan has tens of millions of views on YouTube alone. And that is Trump at his freewheeling best. Again, this is where Trump shines. Trump is really good with people. I've met him several times, obviously. I've dealt with him. I know President Trump. President Trump in a room is excellent. Really, really good. He's actually much better in a room than he is on a stage. On a stage, he tends to ramble. He tends to go really long. In person, in a room, he connects with humans. And that's what he did with Joe Rogan, and you can see it here.
So I always got more publicity than other people. And it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild
Maybe. Maybe
he said a lot of wild and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him.
That is right. That is right. Okay, so momentum with Trump. Meanwhile, the other evidence that Trump is winning is not just that he is happy and that the person campaigning happy tends to be the person who's ahead. It is also that Kamala Harris is clearly flailing. She clearly is flailing. So she was asked over the weekend by a reporter about the internals, the internal polling. So each campaign does internal polling that gives them what they think is their best picture, best snapshot of the swing states. And her answer was, my internal polling is my heart. That's not good.
Can you give us a sense of your internal polling at the campaign and how that is making or influencing your decisions on what to do over the next 9 days?
So, to be very frank with you, my internal polling is my instinct. I let the campaign people deal with all that other stuff.
Have you noticed that the crazy Kamala cackle is back? When she first started this campaign, it was gone. Like she had listened to her campaign handlers, don't do it, right? Please try to keep your cackle in. And then as she's gotten more uncomfortable over the course of the campaign, it makes its appearance all the time, like a lot. If anyone believes, by the way, that she's making her decisions based on instinct, they've never seen Kamala Harris' campaign. She does nothing based on instinct because she doesn't have any political instincts. She doesn't even have positions. Everything she does is poll tested. Everything that she is doing right now is a trial balloon, which she then immediately shoots down if it doesn't get the response that she wants. Everything seems to be failing for her. My friend John Podhoretz over at Commentary Magazine, who worked on the George H.W. Bush campaign in 1992, he has said about that campaign that when a campaign starts to have things go wrong, everything goes wrong all at once. And that seems like the story with Kamala Harris's campaign. It feels like everything is sort of going wrong all at once for her, even the small things. So she did a rally over the weekend, and Beyoncé was supposed to show up, and tons of people showed up because they figured, okay, Beyoncé is going to show up. That means Beyoncé is going to perform. I'm going to get like a free Beyoncé performance out of this. There was only one problem, which is that the packed crowd shows up, and so does Beyoncé. She shows up, she waves to the crowd, and she leaves. And everyone is super pissed because it turns out if somebody says Beyoncé to appear, you don't really think she's just going to show up and wave at you. You think she's going to sing because that's what she's famous for. Kamala can't even get that going. All of which caused Donald Trump to actually rip into Kamala Harris for not even being able to get Beyoncé to sing for her.
You know, they got Beyoncé, and Beyoncé, they got Beyoncé. So Beyoncé went up, spoke for a couple of minutes, and then left, and the place went crazy. They booed the hell out of everybody. They thought she was going to perform. Now, I would have no interest in that, but they said, and what happened is my opponent got up and started speaking. They booed the hell out of her. It's crazy. So they have to use people to get people to come.
He's right, of course. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, she's going place to place, trotting out new accents every single day. Here she was speaking over the weekend, dropping yet another code switch in the middle of the campaign.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
I'm sorry, her doing the MLK routine here is just galling. It really is quite terrible. Former Obama aides like Van Jones, David Axelrod, they're pointing out that she has gone brat to flat. David Axelrod said that she has a habit of going to what he called word salad city when answering questions. Van Jones, for his part, he really has his finger on why Kamala Harris is failing. Because this is the problem. What is the core of Kamala Harris's campaign? The core of the campaign is basically that she's not Joe Biden. That's it. But there is no actual core to her other than her bizarre pursuit of left-wing radical wokeness. Van, I'm friendly with Van. I think Van's, we disagree on an enormous number of things, but I think Van is a genuine voice and speaks what he thinks is the truth and very often hits the nail on the head when it comes to political analysis of the Democratic Party. Here he was pointing out, guys, you alienated everyone, and now you're shocked that you're not getting the votes you need.
If progressives have a politics that says all white people are racist, all men are toxic, and all billionaires are evil, it's kind of hard to keep them on your side. And so we might want to think about, if you're chasing people out of the party, you can't be mad when they leave. And maybe if we had a different politics, we actually said dignity for everybody, everybody's respected, and we need you, more people might stay.
I mean, is that really that complicated? But for Democrats, it is. Let's talk about something that affects everybody who is a responsible, hardworking American. We're talking taxes. That October 15th deadline, that's over. Are you prepared for what comes next? Do you owe back taxes? Are your tax returns still unfiled? Did you miss the deadline to file for an extension? Well, now that October 15th is behind us, the IRS may be ramping up enforcement. Let me tell you, they do not play around. You could face wage garnishments, frozen bank accounts, even property seizures if you haven't taken action yet. But here's the good news. There is still hope. Tax Network USA has been in this game for years. They know exactly how to navigate the complex world of tax law. They've helped taxpayers save over $1 billion in tax debt. They've filed over 10,000 tax returns. That's billion with a B, folks. They specialize in helping hardworking Americans like you reduce their tax burdens. So don't let the IRS catch you off guard. Get ahead of this right now with Tax Network USA. Their team of professionals will work tirelessly to protect your assets and find the best solution for your unique situation. So here's what you need to do. For a complimentary consultation, call today, 1-800-958-1000, or visit their website at tnusa.com/Shapiro. That's 1-800-958-1000, or visit tnusa.com/Shapiro today. Do not let the IRS take advantage of you. Get the help you need with Tax Network USA. Also, you may have noticed I have a busy schedule. I'm flying around the country for work. I'm constantly on the go. I need to keep my health at its very best, which is tough. I exercise, I try to get enough sleep, I eat well. Balance of nature fits right into my day-to-day. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and veggies every day. That sounds miserable and time-consuming. With Balance of Nature fruits and veggies, however, there's never been a more convenient dietary supplement to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and veggies daily. Balance of Nature takes fruits and veggies, they freeze-dry them, they turn them into a powder, and then they put them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and then your body knows what to do with them. It's kosher, which means I can put it right in those protein smoothies to keep this rockin' bod going strong. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Shapiro. Go check them out right now. Again, this is a must-add to your nutritional program. Go to balanceofnature.com right now. Use promo code Shapiro. You get 35% off your very first order as a preferred customer, and you get that free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Shapiro, balanceofnature.com, promo code Shapiro. James Carville's making the same point now. He says the wokeness has been an absolute killer for the Kamala campaign.
The problem is there's a lot of part of the liberal culture that still insists on using this jackass language. This morning, I'm listening to NPR, which I find, in one hand, quite informative, on the other hand, maddeningly frustrating, talking about the vegan community. Does any normal person use the term vegan community? I have no idea. Where do they meet? What are they part of? What do they do? I mean, I know plenty of people that are vegan, but I don't know that there's some, everything is a community. That's the favorite Democratic word that ever existed, which I don't mind it. I like being part of a community. But it just so says something that you send so many coded signals out to so many people that they don't even realize it.
Louisiana Skeletor is correct. Like he's right about that. There's nothing you can say, but they can't. They're addicted to it. They're addicted to it. Gwen Walsh, who is the most obnoxious figure in all of American politics, and Doug Emhoff and Gwen Walsh, man, they're part of the same campaign. If you want the Zoom session from hell, here it is. It's Katie Couric and Gwen Walsh, both way too close to the camera on this Zoom. This is like, oh my God, you get into an HR session and and this is what you are faced with. It's just awful. And here's Gwen Walsh explaining that we need tampons in boys' bathrooms. This is the campaign, guys.
If kids are hungry in school, what that does to brain and learning, you're not going to learn to read. So if you're talking about learning to read and closing gaps, then you better take away the barriers for that. If that's tampons, then that's tampons.
The barrier to learning is tampons in the boys' bathroom, according to Gwen Walsh. I can't imagine why they're losing men. Very, very difficult to understand. By the way, there is nothing at the core of the Kamala Harris campaign other than this kind of garbage. Amazing story in the New York Times. Truly incredible story from a couple of days ago. It's from Friday. Quote, paging through intelligence reports just weeks after she was sworn in as vice president, Kamala Harris was struck by the way 2 female foreign leaders were described. The reports used adjectives that, in her view, were rarely used to describe male leaders. Ms. Harris, the first woman to hold their office, ordered up a review that scrutinized multiple years of briefing reports from various intelligence agencies, looking for possible gender bias. The study found some questionable word choices, but no widespread pattern, according to a senior intelligence official, one of 5 who requested anonymity to discuss the review. None would disclose the words flagged by Ms. Harris because the reports were classified. Still, the exercise had an impact. Intelligence officials added a new training class for analysts to assess how to judge female foreign leaders, according to another official. The episode proved to be a preview of Ms. Harris's priorities. The vice president put questions about gender and race at the center of many of the policy discussions in her office, aides and former administration officials said. Throughout her career, she pushed for policies aimed at systemic disparities and often used her bully pulpit to speak about what she saw as injustices. So the core of her campaign is that as the vice president, when she would get an intelligence report, if it mentioned a female leader and used a word that she thought was sexist and offensive, she would chide the intelligence agencies. This is clown town stuff, folks. And she is an empty-headed clown. She is. That doesn't mean that she is a politician without any qualities at all. She couldn't have gotten as far as she has without no qualities. But her priority when she got in was to check for sexist language, the intelligence reports. These are not serious people. She's not a serious person. And the American people can sense that she's not a serious person. It's almost as though Trump and Harris are polar opposites this way. She tries to present as a serious person, and underneath is a deeply unserious person who should not be in charge of anything. And Trump presents as deeply unserious, and then when it comes to policy, is actually serious as a heart attack. It's a truly amazing comparison. Well, meanwhile, the problems don't stop there for Kamala Harris. Hilariously, Joe Biden is still wandering the landscape, bumping into walls. So apparently the Harris team is very angry because Joe Biden, the corpse of Joe Biden, is still decomposing as he wanders the landscape. So over the weekend, he started trying to flame Donald Trump and speak English, and he failed at both. Here he was on the tarmac.
Trump has no class at all. Zero. None. Think, all kidding aside, if this wasn't a political campaign, how would you characterize the man in terms of his manners, his decency? I mean, beneath the president.
Okay, so, yeah, that's not going to move the needle. You know what else is not going to move the needle? The fact that Joe Biden trying to campaign for Kamala Harris, he is labeling alive people dead, which I guess makes sense since he labels himself alive. So it works in reverse as well. Here he was talking about Gabby Giffords, who is alive, and eulogizing her.
God, thank you for the introduction. And to the Gila Indian River community, the Gila.
Oh, my God.
Nothing wrong with me. Gila River Indian community.
Yes, there is.
For welcoming today. You know, I say this with all sincerity. This, to me, is one of the most consequential things I've ever had an opportunity to do in my whole career as President of the United States. It's an honor, a genuine honor to be in this special place on this special day. Thank you to Senator Mark Kelly, a great friend who also was married to an incredible woman who was my friend.
Who was my friend? She is alive. He is not. And the Harris campaign is like, can we get him off the campaign trail? Axios reports President Biden wants to campaign for Vice President Harris in the last days before the election. Harris's campaign keeps responding, we'll get back to you. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. His approval rating right now is 39%. Remember that old man they tried to shove off the back of the bus? He's like gripping. He's got the death grip on the campaign. He's like, I really, really want to be part of, I want to be, can we campaign together? Come on. And she's like, he's perfectly fine. He's really, everything is great. He's a great president. Stay away from me, old creep. Stay away. Mm-mm. Many on Biden's team, including some still on the campaign that Harris inherited from the president, believe Biden could help Harris in the final days. They believe Harris's team is underestimating Biden's appeal among white working class communities in the Rust Belt, including in Pennsylvania. In 2020, Biden outperformed Hillary Clinton's numbers with some of those voters. Biden's team has become more assertive. They announced that he would campaign solo in Pittsburgh this weekend, and Harris's team was like, what? What are you doing? No, back to the coffin, old man. You wonder why people think there's a campaign in disarray? It might be because it's a campaign in disarray. That would probably be the reason. But you know who the Harris team is trotting out? They're trotting out in a last-ditch effort to drag black men to the polls, Michelle Obama. And Michelle Obama has basically become older person of color Greta Thunberg. She is disappointed in you. She just comes out every so often to explain how she's disappointed in you and America, a place that made her wealthy and famous beyond belief. In America, that gave her more opportunities than any living human. In America, about which she wrote her Princeton thesis talking about how America was evil and terrible. And she's never changed that opinion. America is always evil and terrible, unless it's giving her things. That has been Michelle Obama's personal perspective for a very, very long time. And now she's disappointed in you, America. Because if you won't vote for Kamala Harris, it's obvious that you are sexist and racist. Not that Kamala Harris is a bad candidate. Not that you prefer President Trump's policies. No, it's that she is disappointed in you. So she's just Greta Thunberg now.
See, these are just some of the ways women die during childbirth. And I don't want to be a downer, y'all. But in many cases, there is no warning, and things go bad very quickly. And when it happens, every second of hesitation or delay can lead to devastating outcomes. So I am asking y'all from the core of my being to take our lives seriously. Please, do not put our lives in the hands of politicians, mostly men, who have no clue or do not care about what we as women are going through.
So their appeal to men is men are evil and terrible and they're assaulting women. And she is just Greta Thunberg is very disappointed in you. But now it's Michelle Obama is very disappointed in you. So disappointed in you. And if that weren't enough, you get both Obamas for the price of one. That's not true. You get both Obamas for the price of two. They're not going to stint on the pay. Here is Barack Obama roasting Donald Trump over the weekend.
I do not know where to start with this man. Called the civil rights movement crap. Called LGBTQ people filth. Self-identified as a Nazi. Suggested bringing back slavery. I shouldn't really have to get into all this. I think it's fair to say you do not need a governor who makes Donald Trump look almost normal. You deserve somebody who's going to work every day and fight for you, somebody who has shown that he is up for the job, somebody like Josh Stein. He's been doing it his entire career.
He's going to have an easier time pushing Josh Stein over the finish line in North Carolina, where he's running against Mark Robinson, a deeply flawed candidate, to say the very least, than he will with Kamala Harris. But none of it is working. Nothing is working right now. And you can tell the preemptive sense of panic has totally set in among Democrats. Really, really setting in a major way. Well, folks, the pain is setting in for Democrats. But I'll tell you something. If you don't get enough sleep, the pain is setting in for you, too. Sleep is crucial. The thing you're probably not getting enough of because you're up all night worrying about the state of the world. You got other things going on in your life. I have a solution for you. It's called Helix. Now, I don't endorse products lightly. Helix has changed my life. They've got a whole lineup of different mattresses, 20 different options to be exact. You got Deluxe, for those of you who like to feel like you're sleeping on a cloud. The Elite, for when you want to take your sleep game to the next level. Even the Helix Plus for those who need a little extra support. Plus, you don't need a degree in mattressology to figure out which one is right for you. Just take their sleep quiz. I took it myself. They matched me with a medium firm mattress, which is great because I get back pain if the mattress is too soft. Get this, Helix delivers your personalized sleep solution directly to your door. No hassle, no fuss, just pure comfort shipped straight to you. Plus, they're so confident in their product, they give you 100 nights to try it out. If that wasn't enough, there's a 10 to 15-year warranty. Talk about standing behind your product. So if you want to sleep as soundly as I do, head on over to helixsleep.com/Ben. Take that sleep quiz. Plus, Helix is offering up to 20% off all mattress orders. Just head on over to helixsleep.com/Ben. That's helixsleep.com/Ben. With Helix, better sleep starts right now. Well, folks, Matt Walsh's Am I Racist? Yes, that comedy that became the #1 grossing documentary of the decade. It just dropped exclusively at Daily Wire Plus. What you saw in theaters, that was just the beginning. We are giving Daily Wire Plus members access to deleted scenes we didn't show in the theaters. So if you're not a subscriber, now would be the time to do it. Plus, we have exclusive extras where Matt Walsh breaks down exactly how he pulled off the greatest troll job in history, step by step. I'm talking behind-the-scenes footage that shows how the box office hit comedy all came together. If you're not a Daily Wire Plus member, head on over to miracist.com. Use code DEI. Yeah, we really did that. For 35% off your Daily Wire Plus membership. This isn't just a movie, it's a blueprint for how we are winning the culture war. Stream Am I Racist right now only at Daily Wire Plus. Already we are getting the preemptive mourning from the Democratic faithful. It's pretty amazing to watch, actually. So it is preemptive rage. They know that they are not doing well in this election, and so they are bringing out everything they have got. Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, they're out front. You can feel the rage. You can feel the anger. They don't feel this way because they're winning. They feel this way because they are losing. Here's Leonardo DiCaprio, who apparently has mistaken Kamala Harris for a 23-year-old woman, expressing his support for her.
This is the place where democracy was born. And it's only fitting that we're all here today to fight for that very same democracy. Like all of you, I am very excited because in 10 short days, we all have the opportunity to make history together. Citizens like every one of you here today are absolutely critical to doing just that.
I just want to start. It makes me so angry that we're here talking about a piece of like Donald Trump.
Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, making the case to people who really, really, really loved all 9 hours of Killers of the Flower Moon. But that's not where most of the rage was happening over the weekend. Most of the rage was actually directed at, wait for it, the Washington Post. So the Washington Post came out and said it will stop endorsing presidential candidates. Apparently, that decision was made by Jeff Bezos, the paper's owner. Now, is anyone under the mistaken impression that the Washington Post op-ed page is filled with Donald Trump supporters? Everybody knows where the Washington Post stands. The reason that they're not endorsing this year or in the future is because they understand they've alienated everybody to the right of Karl Marx over at the Washington Post. The Los Angeles Times is doing the same thing. They're withholding their endorsement. Is that because they don't actually like Kamala Harris more than they like Donald Trump? Of course not. We know where the LA Times is. We know where the Washington Post is. But the mere fact that they would not put forth an endorsement of Kamala Harris means that everyone is losing their minds on the left. On Friday, Will Lewis, the Post's chief executive, according to the New York Times, told the newsroom the paper would no longer endorse presidential candidates. His announcement came after the debate and decision by Bezos, a person with knowledge of the talks, said. By that time, the paper's opinion section had already drafted an endorsement of Harris, according to 4 people with knowledge of the process. The Post had endorsed presidential candidates since 1976, when it gave its stamp of approval to Jimmy Carter. But the reality is that the Washington Post has endorsed a Democrat every election cycle since then. I don't think they've ever endorsed a Republican, ever. So what difference does it make? The answer is none. But people are fighting mad about this. Very, very angry. Marty Baron, former executive editor of the Washington Post, he said, quote, "This is cowardice with democracy as its casualty." Donald Trump will see this as an invitation to further intimidate Jeff Bezos and others, disturbing spinelessness at an institution famed for courage. Wow. Yeah, the Washington Post, famous for its courage, because they've spent their entire existence standing up to the Democratic power structure. Well, can't say that, really. But they're really, really mad. Meanwhile, Washington Post editor-at-large Robert Kagan confirmed that he resigned from the Washington Post following the decision not to endorse in the presidential race. The Washington Post, by the way, recently sought a sit-down with Kamala Harris at the paper's ed board. The campaign refused to schedule a meeting. So they're really, really fighting mad about this. Brian Stelter, Mr. Potato, he is back on CNN, where he explains this is anticipatory obedience. So I just have a question. If they refuse to issue an endorsement on behalf of Kamala Harris, that's anticipatory obedience. If they every year endorse a Democrat, is that not anticipatory obedience? Meaning, aren't they doing that because they wish to get in good with Democrats? Here's Brian Stelter. Everyone is so mad on the left. Now, here's the reality. Ain't nobody voting based on the Washington Post editor's decision whether or not to issue an endorsement. Nobody was waiting there. No swing voter was like, oh my God, well, now the Washington Post is withholding an endorsement. Probably I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. Like, no one's doing that. No one. They're just looking for people to be angry at because they have to find somebody to blame. They can't blame themselves. They can't blame the Democratic Party, and they can't blame wokeness. So they have to find somebody. Maybe it'll be the Russians this time. Or maybe it'll be the editorial board over at the Washington Post, which could not issue that crucial late in the cycle endorsement.
The overarching story here is about a concern that billionaires like Bezos might be rolling over and appeasing Donald Trump, whether even before the election day actually rolls around. This is known by some scholars as anticipatory obedience, the idea that some people obey in advance to curry favor with aspiring authoritarians. Certainly, many liberal critics of Trump believe that's exactly what's happening now at publications like the Washington Post. And I've heard from staffers inside the Post, reporters and editors, who are worried about the chilling effect that this is having.
This is a chilling effect. So it's Trump being mean to the Washington Post. That is why they're caving. Democracy is dying in darkness. Oh. Or maybe it turns out that Jeff Bezos and the rest of the paper's ownership structure are not particularly interested in, at this point, in continuing to alienate literally half the body politic. Well, not so for the New York Times. The New York Times issued a front page, and this is obviously an attempt to steal the audience of the Washington Post. The Sunday opinion section in giant 20-point bold font. Donald Trump says he will prosecute his enemies, order mass deportations, use soldiers against citizens, abandon allies, play politics with disasters. Believe him. Well, I mean, I for one, am very relieved to find out that the New York Times editorial board is not endorsing Donald Trump. and will in fact endorse Kamala Harris. Until that moment, I had no idea where they stood. I mean, sure, every one of their conservative columnists has also endorsed Kamala Harris. Sure, that's true. But the thing that I am most focused on right now is that the New York Times said the thing, and that's really important. Again, this is all preemptive panic. It's all preemptive panic by the Democrats. They're upset with the Washington Post, not because they think the endorsement matters, but because they need somebody who's showing insufficient skin in the game to blame if Kamala Harris loses. They need somebody to blame. Maybe it'll be Jill Stein, maybe it'll be the Russians, or maybe it'll just be the American people writ large. But the Washington Post is as good a candidate as any. Now we'll see how it works out for them. Usually the party that preemptively panics is the one that's losing. Alrighty, guys, coming up, while I was on break, Iran was struck by the Israeli Defense Force. We'll bring you the latest there. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro. Check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.